Hello everybody and welcome back to this channel. In this video, I'm going to be talking about why it's so important to buy property if you're in the diaspora. And I'll be joined by a very special guest, and I'm so pleased to have her on the show. Her name is Cynthia Mwila, and she is the head of banking and mortgage sales at Zambia National Building Society. And what makes her such a special guest is that she actually lived in the diaspora. She spent many years abroad and came back home. But I'm not going to tell her story. She'll tell her story to you herself. And hopefully you'll get a lot out of this discussion. Now, if we haven't met before, my name is Natasha. I'm the founder of Diaspora Connect, and our sole objective is to help you buy property in a safe and reliable way if you're in the diaspora. And on this channel, I like to give you information and inspiration on the Zambian property market. All right, so let's get into our video for today, where it's really going to be about Cynthia telling her story about being in the diaspora and why it's so key that if you are in the diaspora, you think about buying property at home and you actually take steps to do it. So hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Natasha. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So we're having a social distancing interview here
Yes,
because we're still in the middle of COVID, but we're keeping ourselves safe.
Yes,
So how have you been during this time?
No, I've been good.
Okay,
Yeah, working
good.
from home, on
Yeah.
and off.
Okay, great. So now tell us a bit about your story. What made you leave Zambia and where did you go?
Okay, so I left Zambia when I was very young. I think I finished grade 4, and that was it. And my dad was working abroad, so we moved as a family. And then I ended up in London, where I basically did my secondary education. So I did from first year to my 6th form. And then I went into university in Leicester. And then thereafter, I worked in London. And that's where my professional career took off.
And what were you doing for work in London?
Okay, so to start with, I studied law. Then I went into the pensions
Fellow
industry,
lawyer.
I know, and as a graduate. So I started as a graduate in financial services. So I focused more on pensions, but I branched out into banking. So I worked for Royal Bank of Scotland, and I was there for a few years. And so I carved my career as a banker.
Okay,
basically.
all right, good. And so how long were you away in total?
Well, in total, I would say probably like 30 years of my life.
What?
Without giving away my age, right? So a long time. I was away a long time. I had grown up in the UK. UK was home.
Yeah.
Zambia was home from home. But so I was there a very long time, settled there, yeah.
So having been away for so long, why on earth would you come back? I mean, didn't you feel like your life was there? Weren't you settled?
Yeah.
What made you even start thinking about coming home?
To be honest, it's a good question. Definitely my career was good. I had my friends there, my family. And it started off as a gradual a thought. And, as I got older, I started to come home more. So every year I'd come home. Every year I'd connect with a few friends that were here. I'd see how they've progressed. And I was someone who's very ambitious, and I'd sort of ask myself a few questions. But I really just felt a need to connect with home, to be honest. Yeah, and that's where it really started from.
Okay. And what is that process like internally when you're thinking about it, you're contemplating it? What is it that made you pull the trigger, so to speak?
I think one, it was opportunity. You have to start the journey, right? So you have to you think about it. Most people think about it, then they'll put obstacles. I won't get as much, especially if you're working. I won't earn as much. And of course, if you're comparing kwacha and pounds, it's like comparing apples and oranges, you know? So you're looking at that, and how will I settle? Will I really know anyone? So you start to go through this, I want, and then you start to defend it. And for me, it's a process. It can take years, actually. But once that seed is planted, it starts from there. And each time I found that as I got older, it got a bit stronger. My curiosity, what would life be like? How would I do if I worked in Zambia, if I lived in Zambia? So it wasn't a single
event.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. It's so funny because I do talk to a lot of people in the diaspora, and one thing that often comes out is just what you said. The older they get, the more that pull.
I know.
Yeah,
And you
to come
don't
home.
see it coming.
Yeah.
You don't. It's just
Yeah.
one day, boom, you know, you could be 60, you could be 40, you could be, but I found that need to connect with home for so long as you had the connection in the beginning,
Yeah.
it comes back.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, we had been talking a bit off camera, and you said that, you know, some people want everything to be in place before they come back, but you were saying it's not like that at all.
Yeah, it's not. I think I started, you know, that way. I wanted to get the perfect job and a job where, you know, I was going to earn as much as I was earning in England. I wanted to go back with everything, you know, have everything, your furniture, your car, you know, I was waiting for that perfect moment, and life is not perfect. It's a
That's
series
right.
of different things that adds up to this one big thing. And so for me, in you know, in retrospect, waiting for that perfect moment, it might not happen. Some people are lucky, but most people, you've got to take the risk. You've got to take the plunge, plan. Yes, planning is important, but just go for it. Yeah.
So, what was that transition like when you actually did come back home?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was interesting. I mean, the first few months it was like holiday mode. You know, when you come back, you're excited.
Yeah.
There's sun every day. I mean, you know, the things you take for granted, right? But it was, for me, I think I was relatively lucky. I had family who were still home. My sister was also moving back, so we were transitioning together.
Oh, that's good.
I had a job that I went to. Maybe I didn't start at the level where I am now. I've had to work my way up, but I had something to focus on.
Right.
So I think I settled in quite well. And I was worried about friends, you know, thinking you don't belong.
Yeah.
But to be honest, you sort of find people have moved on, and you connect with some old friends, you meet new friends.
Yeah.
So I think it wasn't too difficult, but I had to be very disciplined. I had
In
to say,
terms
if it
of-
gets tough, you're not going back.
Oh, okay.
Give it 2 years. You know,
Yeah.
that's
So you
the
like
danger,
burn
the
the boats,
temptation.
burn the bridge.
So I didn't even allow myself to come on holiday, to go back to England on holiday for the
Wow.
first 18 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the time I went back, I was
You were
settled.
settled, yeah. But it sounds like also when you come back, it's a kind of gradual process of building your life here.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Huh? Okay, so now, you know, on this channel, we talk about property.
Yep.
We're all about property on this channel. So I want us to get into that. Did you buy property when you were away?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
It's a good question. You know, I think you can get comfortable, right? I had a good job. I rented a lovely apartment. I was content. I might have just eventually got round to doing it, but yeah, I didn't. And I think for me, the biggest thing was not just not buying property over there, but so much opportunity that I had that I could have invested in property, even outside England. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you were in a kind of comfort zone. So you never really took that step. Was there anything else that sort of held you back? Because, you know, you did have some family here, and you did kind of come on holiday. So I'm sure you could see what was happening when you'd come on holiday. You
Yeah.
mentioned your friends were progressing, they were getting property. So what was it that sort of prevented you from taking that step?
Okay, so I think it's a few things. Firstly, you never really think it's going to be relevant. I
Oh,
live
okay.
there, why would I buy here?
Right.
So that's the first thing. Secondly, you think it's not possible.
What do you mean by that?
It just doesn't seem something, you know, when you don't know where to start with something,
Okay.
it just makes the whole process seem impossible.
Yeah.
You don't know where to start.
Ah.
You don't know the legal process. You don't know where to buy land, what is safe. And I look back on certain decisions I made even coming back
Yeah.
around property, and I realized some of those were hinged on those same anxieties.
Yeah.
You know, I could give probably an example of where I live now, but I had an opportunity. I live in Foxdale.
Uh-huh.
I had an opportunity when I first came back to look at property in that area.
Yeah.
And you know, if you've been in England a long time, you go to an area you don't know. I just saw bush and I'm thinking, you know what?
Right.
I'm not sure this is safe. I'm not sure I'm going to buy here. And so I didn't really have that local knowledge and the benefit of seeing where land appreciates. And
Right.
so I waited and said, look, I'll do it when I can afford this area or that area.
Right.
And that's because it wasn't familiar to me.
Yeah.
But when I ended up buying in the same area, but at 50% higher. And by that time it had developed, and then it becomes this place that you really struggle to afford to get into.
Right.
So there's a lot of things around that, understanding your area, having the right advice, all those things go into your early decision making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. You've said so many things that I just want to pick up on. First of all, you talked about how the idea of buying land just seems so complicated when you're away because you're so far removed from it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of what I try to do through these videos is just try to educate people so that they can get an idea, a sense of, you know, what the process is like. And then also you mentioned about just not understanding the way the property landscape is changing and changing quite quickly.
It is.
Yeah, because you're talking about a very short period of time, isn't it? From the time you first went to look at Foxdale and to when you decided to buy there.
Exactly.
And I always tell people, you know, there's a saying in property that go buy where people are going, not where people are. And, you know, there's some properties that we are marketing which seem very far away. And I tell people, go there in 5 years. It'll be totally transformed.
And the city is expanding, right?
Very
it's expanding.
much.
The areas we're thinking, you know, it's where?
Yeah.
All the way up there. It's a different town. We don't know it.
Yes.
It's part of Lusaka.
Yes, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. And also the point that you bring up, which I think is really important, is the issue of capital appreciation. And the way prices have just been going up so much. I think that's also an important point that people need to understand that, you know, the property market is not really waiting for anybody to make up their mind.
No, it's not. Yeah. And I think in Zambia, for various reasons, when I compare the two, if I'm comparing the UK and I'm comparing Zambia, I know people who live in the UK probably think, yep, it's going to bust. You know, because you've been through that process, right?
Yeah.
You understand how property appreciates and that it kind of, they call it market correction, it corrects itself.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's a little bit different here. And I'll tell you why. Because most people can't really afford to buy property, right? There's a huge housing deficit. I'm sure that's probably known about 3.5 million units. So if you are in a position where you can do something, whether it's for yourself, for family, it's completely unforgivable not to even try. Because there are people who genuinely don't have the income to be able to do. So even the property market, in as much as it's appreciating, there's always going to be that market for buy to rent, buy to let, because unfortunately a lot of people cannot afford to own. Right. So the market is always the more our middle income is growing, the greater the demand for now middle income property. And people who can afford to pay rent, but they cannot afford to buy.
Exactly. So that demand is still quite strong.
So the demand is strong, and it keeps, with each year, it keeps growing. And the prices keep going, you know, so it's all about opportunity.
So once you had come back and you had settled into your job, into your life, you got over the holiday feeling, how long did it take for you to actually start looking for something to buy?
Took a while. It took a while. I think you kind of revert to type. So I started renting. It's all about becoming familiar of in a particular area. You're comfortable. It took me a little while, and I think part of it was me thinking, let me wait, let me see if I'm really going to settle. But again, in hindsight, I don't know if that's the right decision, because you know what? You can buy property. If you change your mind, you can put it on rent. You can sell it. But you've made an investment. Right? So I was going through that process of, I had 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and I was trying to figure it out. And by the time I did, then I started to, my first property was not the one I live in, but I started to build.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so I bought, I got a piece of land and started to build some flats.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, and then you know, from there you develop that confidence.
Yes.
And that appetite to say, you know what, I can do
it.
more.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So you regret not having started sooner?
Definitely.
Are your flats finished?
Oh, they're finished, and I sold them off. And
Oh, that's
because I wanted to
fantastic.
invest in the house that I live in now.
Okay.
So, yeah, I made a decision. But at the end of the day, it was so gratifying to own your own property, even if I didn't live in them, because I put them on rent.
Yes.
So mine's a bit unusual. I put them on rent, and I stayed somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I had ownership. I owned something. So
Yes.
yeah,
And that feeling is so important.
it is.
You know, there's another property saying, because
Yeah,
I have lots of property quotes, which says that property is good not just for your financial security, but your emotional security as well.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
I do. I think also when you look at some of these studies and statistically, you feel more grounded, you know. And if you go back to old days, I always say the house, it's the foundation, isn't it?
Yes.
So I feel that it's a big thing, right? When you become a property owner, it's a big deal. Your first one is a very big deal.
Yeah.
So it's like for me, if you can do it, you should.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And
I like that.
if I compare again England to Zambia, yeah, I've got friends and some of them own and some of them don't.
Yeah.
And those that own, they do. But I always wonder, you know, property prices are so high there that
Yeah.
you could invest in a property here as well,
Yeah.
and probably get a lot more value.
What do you mean by that?
In terms of space,
Right.
in terms of the cost. I know people
Yeah.
look and say, you know, Zambia, it's expensive.
Yeah.
But when you do your conversions,
Yes.
and you look at per square meter, how much are you getting in Zambia versus how
Absolutely.
much the cost per square meter in the UK. If you do those comparisons,
Yeah.
you might be surprised.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so this video is actually being sponsored by Zambia National Building Society, which I've mentioned. That's where Cynthia works. So, Cynthia, for those people who are, you know, you've whetted their appetite from what you said, you sparked their curiosity. Can you just tell us briefly what Building Society can help with, especially for people in the diaspora?
Okay, thank you. Well, maybe if I can put some context to the Building Society as well, because not everybody knows the Building
please, go ahead.
Society. So Zambia National Building Society was mandated by government to basically provide affordable housing. So we've been around like 50 years, and mortgage finance is our area of expertise. So we also do other sort of core banking, banking propositions we offer, but our experience is really largely mortgage. So the types of mortgages that anyone in the diaspora can access, you can actually construct, so you can actually build.
Wow.
Right, so you can buy a piece of land and we finance the build. And we do it quite early on, actually, because a lot of financiers will say, you need to get to this level, call us when you're at roof level.
Yes.
We're saying, look, we just need to have a slab, right? So you put up the slab and then we can help you finish the rest. Or you can buy a property outright. So if you see a property, or some people want to buy an old family home, we can do that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so
you do building and you do construction.
sorry?
You do building loans? You do construction loans
Yes.
and outright purchase.
So we do construction, outright purchase. For people who already have mortgages, we do balance transfers. For people who have houses,
For refinancing, you mean?
yeah.
Yes.
For people who have houses, you can actually get what we call an equity release.
Sure.
Or you can actually just upgrade your home. So if you want to do up your home as well, we do that as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so Cynthia, thank you so much for being here. Do you have any last words for the people watching?
Okay, Natasha, thank you so much for having me. As you can tell, I'm so passionate
Yes.
about this. My few comments are really, I understand where everybody's at in the diaspora. And I think for me, the biggest thing is to start the journey. Just start by sending Natasha a message. And from there, we'll be able to sort of walk you through the process, calculate your entitlement. Because at Zambia National Building Society, we have something that's tailored actually for people in the diaspora. So we understand your income patterns, we understand the fact that you don't bank here, you bank there. So it's really just, you know, reach out to us basically, and we'll be able to walk you through.
Yeah. So I think that's such a good point that you've made, Cynthia. So please don't feel that you can't take action because maybe there's something that we've said that you don't understand, or we haven't been able to go into as much detail as you would like. You know, we know that people are busy. We can't cram everything into one video, but please get in touch with us and we will make sure that we take time to explain everything to you. There is a tailor-made product for you in the diaspora that Building Society is itching to provide to you. So please do get in touch. I hope that you found this useful. Please leave your comments in the section below, and don't forget to like this video and share it with other Zambians in your community. Now, please subscribe because I am doing my best to convince Cynthia to come back. There is so much to talk about, and I hope that they will sponsor more episodes because we really want to get to the crux of their products, but more especially to find out how they can help you. So please subscribe and hit the notification button so you don't miss any more videos. I'm really hoping that this is going to turn into something bigger for you. But otherwise, bye for now. Thanks, Cynthia. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Owning a home back home is now possible with the Zambia National Building Society. With over 45 years of experience in the mortgage sector, empowering Zambians with home ownership, ZNBS now dismantles all geographical barriers and takes the housing finance to Zambians resident abroad. The Diaspora mortgage will allow you to buy, build, or renovate a home in Zambia, regardless of where you are in the world. Invest in home ownership and fly back into your own pride.